stop everything, because what just leaked isn't just messy relationship drama. It's the kind of explosive inside-the-house meltdown that people whisper about for years, but never actually see, until now. Because according to multiple sources, eyewitness accounts, and now viral clips spreading like wildfire across social media. Ballistic Beats didn't just argue with Joseline Hernandez. He threw her out of his house, out of his space, out of what everyone thought was their unbreakable empire. And the way it went down was not quiet, was not controlled, was not fixable. We're talking shouting so loud neighbors allegedly stepped outside, doors slamming, objects being moved, voices overlapping with years of tension finally snapping all at once. And then, the moment, the one people can't stop replaying. Joseline, outside, bags, phone in hand, pacing, yelling, and the look on her face, not just anger, humiliation, shock. Because insiders are saying she didn't think he would actually do it. Not like this. Not publicly. Not final. But here's where it gets even worse, because this wasn't just one random argument. This was something building, weeks, maybe months, of tension, of suspicion, of quiet fights behind closed doors that never made it to the internet. Until now. And now that it's out, everything is unraveling. Leaked messages, voice notes, alleged recordings from inside that very house. People claiming there was another name mentioned in the argument, another situation, another layer nobody saw coming, and suddenly... This isn't just about a breakup. This is about betrayal, about control, about who really had power in that relationship all along. Because while Joseline has built her entire brand on being loud, dominant, untouchable, this time, she got put out, and the internet is not holding back. So the question isn't what happened. The question is, what exactly was said inside that house? That made Ballistic finally snap. The moment those first shaky clips hit the internet, everything changed. Not slowly, not gradually, instantly. Because within minutes, what started as whispers turned into full-blown digital chaos. The footage wasn't clear, but it didn't need to be. You could see enough. Joseline outside, pacing, voice raised, phone pressed to her ear, a suitcase sitting just behind her like a silent confirmation that something real had just happened. And the internet? Lost control. People weren't asking if it was true anymore. They were asking what happened inside that house that pushed it this far, because according to insiders, that moment outside was just the aftermath. The explosion had already happened. And it was worse than anyone imagined. Sources close to the situation say the night didn't start with chaos. It started quiet. Too quiet. Joseline had reportedly come back home late after a studio session. Nothing unusual for her. Music has always been her outlet, her escape, her weapon. But something about that night felt different the second she walked in. Ballistic wasn't asleep. He wasn't relaxed. He was waiting, sitting still, phone in hand. And according to one alleged insider who claims to have heard details from someone inside the circle, the energy shifted immediately. No greeting, no small talk, just one question. To who were you with? That was it. And that question set everything off. Joseline, never one to be interrogated, reportedly fired back instantly. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she questioned him right back, asking why he was checking her movements, why he was acting like he didn't trust her. And that's when things escalated, because Ballistic didn't raise his voice right away. He showed her something, his phone, messages, allegedly. Now, here's where the story fractures, because depending on who you ask, the details shift. But one thing remains consistent across every version. There were messages involved that Joseline did not expect him to have. Some say they were screenshots. Some say they were forwarded texts. Others claim it was a full conversation thread with someone close to their professional circle. But what matters is this. Ballistic believed them, and Joseline was caught off guard. At first, she reportedly laughed it off, called it fake, said it was people trying to break them up. But insiders say Ballistic wasn't reacting like someone confused. He was reacting like someone who had already decided what he believed. And that's when his tone changed. Calm. Cold. Final. "You think I'm stupid?" That line, according to multiple retellings, is what shifted the entire room. Because from that point on, it wasn't a conversation. It was a confrontation. Voices got louder. Accusations started flying. Joseline reportedly accused him of being controlling, of trying to monitor her every move, of creating problems where there weren't any. Ballistic allegedly fired back with something even sharper, bringing up past incidents, past rumors, or past moments she thought were buried. And suddenly, this wasn't about one night. It was about everything. Every unresolved argument, every suspicion, every silent resentment that had been building behind the scenes while the public saw smiles, performances, and unity. And then came the first real break. According to a neighbor who later spoke anonymously, the yelling became so intense it echoed outside. Not just raised voices, screaming. The kind that makes people stop what they're doing. The kind that makes walls feel thin. The kind that doesn't sound like it can be fixed. Inside, things reportedly spiraled. Joseline began pacing. Ballistic stood still. And that contrast made everything worse. Because the more emotional she became, the more distant he seemed. And then, the second bomb dropped. He brought up a name. Or not publicly confirmed, not officially stated, but repeated enough in whispers that it stuck. A man. Connected to her recent work. Someone she had allegedly been around more than usual. And when that name came up, Joseline snapped. Not defensive, explosive. Because according to insiders, she didn't deny knowing him. She denied the implication. But Ballistic was already past that point. And then came the moment that changed everything. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He didn't escalate further. He walked away. Into another room. Silence. Brief. Heavy. And when he came back, he wasn't holding his phone anymore. He was holding a bag. And that was it. That was the signal that this wasn't another fight. This wasn't another cycle. This was ending. Right there. Right then. Joseline reportedly froze for a split second. Because even she didn't expect that move. Arguments. Yes. Threats. Maybe. But action. Immediate. Final. That was different. And that's when she pushed back harder than ever. Yelling that he was trying to embarrass her. That he was doing this for control. That he was making a scene out of nothing. But Ballistic didn't match her energy. He stayed calm, which somehow made everything feel even more intense. And then he said it. You gotta go. Not later, not tomorrow, now. And that sentence hit harder than anything else that night. Because it wasn't emotional. It wasn't reactive. It was decided. Joseline reportedly refused at first. Said she wasn't leaving. Said it was her space too. Said he didn't have the right. But according to sources, he didn't argue. He started packing. Not aggressively. Not violently. Just steadily. And that's what broke her. Because suddenly, this wasn't a fight she could win. This was a situation already over. And that's when the meltdown happened. Full, unfiltered, shouting, crying, accusing, calling people, walking back and forth, trying to regain control of a moment that had already slipped away. And then, the exit. Fast, messy, unplanned, grabbing what she could, dragging the suitcase, still yelling into the phone, still trying to process what had just happened. And that's the moment the world saw. But what they didn't see was what Ballistic did next. Because according to insiders, the second that door closed behind her, he didn't chase her. He didn't call her back. He didn't step outside. He locked the door and walked away. And that is what made people realize this wasn't temporary, this wasn't dramatic, this was done. But just when it seemed like the story couldn't get any heavier, Another layer started to leak, because those messages he showed her, the ones that started everything, people are now claiming that wasn't even the full story. And what he might actually have is far worse. By the time the internet started asking what was in those messages, the situation had already spiraled into something far darker than a simple breakup. Because now it wasn't just about being kicked out. It was about why. And the whispers? They weren't slowing down. They were multiplying. Fast. Because within hours of that confrontation leaking, screenshots began circulating, blurry, unconfirmed, but specific enough to ignite chaos. Messages allegedly between Joseline and someone saved under a name that fans immediately began trying to decode. No clear identity. No verified number, but the tone? That's what set everything off. Flirty, familiar, too comfortable. And one line, just one, is what pushed the internet into overdrive. He don't gotta know. That was it. 4 words. And suddenly, everything shifted. Because whether real or fake, those words felt like confirmation to some and manipulation to others. Fans split instantly. This ain't proof. She's set up. That's clear. Y'all reaching. Timelines turned into battlegrounds. Old clips resurfaced. Old interviews replayed. Moments where Joseline mentioned trust, loyalty, independence, all reanalyzed under a new lens. Because now, everything meant something. Meanwhile, inside Ballistic's circle, the narrative was different, more controlled, more deliberate. He didn't react off emotion, one alleged insider claimed. He already knew. And that line made everything heavier, because if he already knew, then that night wasn't a discovery. It was a confrontation waiting to happen. And suddenly people started asking a different question. How long had this been building? According to sources close to production, tension between them had been visible for weeks. Subtle. But there, Joseline being more distant, Ballistic being quieter, less present, less engaged, and those around them noticing, but not interfering. Because with them, conflict wasn't new. But this felt different. Usually they bounce back, one insider said. This time, nobody thought they would. Back online, things escalated even further when a voice note surfaced. Short, distorted, but chilling. A female voice sounding like Joseline, according to some, saying, "I told you to chill. He's watching everything right now." The internet froze. Because if real, that suggested awareness, not accident, not misunderstanding, but intention. And just like that, the narrative flipped again, but then came the counterattack, because within hours another leak dropped, this time from a completely different angle. Messages allegedly from Ballistic to someone else, where he wrote, "I've been checked out, she just didn't see it." Now the internet was divided in a whole new way. Was this betrayal? Or was this an exit plan? Was Joseline caught slipping? Or was Ballistic already halfway gone and just needed a reason to end it cleanly? Because now, both sides had something. Both sides had receipts, and nobody knew which ones were real. But the chaos didn't stop there, because then came the video. Not the one outside, a different one. It's short, grainy, from inside the house. No faces clearly visible, just voices, raised, overlapping. But one sentence came through loud enough to spread like wildfire. "You been moving funny for weeks." That line confirmed what many already suspected. This wasn't sudden, this was build-up, explosion after pressure. And the more people replayed it, the more they picked sides. Meanwhile, Joseline finally broke her silence, but not the way people expected. No live, no rant, no immediate defense, just one post, a photo, herself, alone, no glam, no caption except, "Respect is everything." That was it, and somehow, that said more than anything else could, because for the first time, she wasn't explaining, she wasn't arguing, she was hurt, and people noticed. Support started flooding in. You don't deserve that. He should have handled it private. She's still a queen. But just as quickly, criticism came back. You got caught. Stop playing victim. You did this. And just like that, the internet turned into a courtroom, judging, speculating, debating. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, things got even messier, because sources claim Joseline tried to reach him. Multiple times, calls, messages, through friends. But Ballistic didn't respond. Not once. And that silence hit harder than any argument. Because now, it wasn't just about what happened. It was about what wasn't happening. No closure, no conversation, no second chance. And that's when the emotional breakdown reportedly happened. Inside her hotel room. No cameras, no audience, just reality. She cried for hours, one source claimed. Not yelling, not angry, just broken. Because for someone like Joseline, losing control isn't normal. But losing connection, that's deeper. Meanwhile, Ballistic's next move shocked everyone, because instead of responding, he changed the locks, quietly. No announcement, no explanation, but confirmed by someone close enough to know. And when that detail hit social media, everything escalated again. Because now, this wasn't a fight, this was separation. Real, physical, final. But just when it seemed like both sides had shown everything they had, another twist emerged. One nobody saw coming, because a new name started circulating. A woman, not tied to Joseline, not part of her circle, connected to Ballistic. And suddenly, the question changed again. Because now people weren't just asking what Joseline did, they were asking, what was Ballistic hiding? Or, and if this situation wasn't as one-sided as it looked, the moment that new name surfaced, everything shifted again. Because now the narrative wasn't just about Joseline being put out. It wasn't just about messages, arguments, or even betrayal. Now it was about something deeper, something messier, something that made people stop mid-scroll and say, wait, so what was really going on? Because within hours of that name hitting timelines, more alleged details started leaking. Quiet at first, then all at once. A woman. Not random, not unknown, but not public either. Someone who had allegedly been around Ballistic space longer than people realized. And suddenly, clips resurfaced. Old videos, background appearances, moments nobody paid attention to before. Now being replayed like evidence, zoomed in, analyzed, connected. Because in one clip, she's there, in the background, laughing, comfortable, too comfortable. And that's when fans started asking the question that changed everything. Was Joseline the only one being accused of something? Or was Ballistic already moving on before that night ever happened? Because now, the timing didn't sit right. The calmness didn't sit right. The decision to kick her out so quickly felt less like reaction and more like preparation. And that's when the internet split for the final time, not into two sides, but into confusion. Because now nobody knew what to believe. She cheated. No, he had someone already. They both wrong. This was planned. It's a setup. It's karma. It's manipulation. Every theory, every angle, every possibility, all at once. Meanwhile, Joseline went silent again. Completely. No posts. No appearances, nothing. And that silence this time felt different, not emotional, not reactive, strategic. Because according to one insider, she's not done, she's just waiting. Waiting for what? Nobody knew, but everyone felt it. Something was coming. Meanwhile, Ballistic made a move that no one expected. He posted, finally. Not a long explanation, not a rant, just a short video. Him, sitting, calm, looking straight into the camera. And he said one sentence, I chose peace. That was it. No details, no accusations, no defense. And somehow, that made things worse. Because that sentence felt like closure, but also like dismissal. Like everything that just happened was already behind him. And that's when the backlash hit. Hard. You don't get to say peace after kicking her out like that. Peace for who? You moved on too quick. You hiding something. And suddenly, the same silence that protected him before started turning against him, because now people weren't just watching Joseline. They were watching him too. And then, the final explosion. Because late that night, without warning, Joseline came back, live. No announcement, no build-up, just instantly there. And the moment people joined, they knew. This wasn't going to be calm, no makeup, no filter, eyes red, voice already shaking. And the first thing she said, "They think I'm the problem." And then, everything poured out, not controlled, not structured, just raw. She didn't deny everything, but she didn't confirm anything either. She talked about disrespect, about feeling watched, one about being made to feel small in a space she helped build. And then, she dropped the line that froze everyone. "Don't play like you ain't been doing you too." The comments exploded, because that wasn't random. That was directed. That was pointed. That was a response to everything people were starting to question. And then, she went further, hinting, not naming, but enough for people to connect it. "There's things I could say right now that would change how you'll see everything." That line hit harder than anything else, because it wasn't emotion. It was leverage. And suddenly, the power dynamic shifted again, because now, it wasn't just about what he had on her. It was about what she might have on him. And just like that, the story wasn't over. It was wide open. No clear villain, no clear victim. Just two people with history, or with secrets, with receipts nobody had fully seen yet, and a public waiting for the final drop, because one thing became clear in that moment. This wasn't about who was right. This was about who was going to expose everything first. And when that happens, there's no coming back from it. If you've made it this far, then you already know this isn't just drama. This is one of those stories that keeps evolving every single hour. And the scariest part? We still don't have the full truth. So now I need you to do 3 things right now. First, hit that like button immediately. Because every like pushes this story further, and trust me, the more attention this gets, the faster those hidden receipts are going to come out. Second, drop your opinion in the comments. Whose side are you really on right now? Be honest. Do you believe Joseline is being painted as the villain, or do you think Ballistic finally reached his breaking point? Or do you think both of them are hiding something bigger? And third, you need to subscribe and turn on notifications right now. Because the way this is going, another leak could drop at any moment. Another live, another recording, another name exposed. And if you're not locked in, you're going to miss the moment everything flips again. Stay ready. Because this situation, it's not over. Not even close.